in by somebody else. Let's give an example. What would be a good example of that? A good example of that would be, for example, we find that when somebody, the statistics says that people that win lotteries, the money that comes and goes, it hasn't really become theirs. When somebody exerts himself, it really becomes theirs, and they are able to deal with it. And that's not an exact example for this thing we're trying to say. You can have an example. So that a person appreciates his own effort. We don't like lechem chinam, lechem shel busha, we call it, shameful bread. Handouts don't make a person feel good. When something is not earned, it doesn't feel right. The reason, in other words, we can go back to a more fundamental question. If Hashem is a loving parent to us, why does He make us work? Why does He make us work for what we get? Why doesn't He just, as we're born, I think there are some oil countries maybe that have almost this kind of scenario. They're born, there's so much oil money, that they basically have all their rights and all their benefits and all that thing. Why doesn't Hashem make it? All of us are born like that, just with all. He makes us work. Why does He make us work? Because He doesn't like us? No. Contrary, because He loves us. But why is it that way? We all know that when you do something, when you earn something, when you work for something, you appreciate it much more. The worst thing you can do for a child is always give him things without letting him buy in, without letting him earn, without letting him work for it. Why is that though? Because that's our nature. But why is that? Why do we have that nature? And here we come to a deeper concept, and that is Hashem wants us to be partners with Him. He gives us the ultimate gift. He wants us to be partners with Him. To be partners with Him, we have to also invest. We have to also toil. And that's why the mitzvah, if we want to have a connection with Hashem, we want it to really become part of who we are, the mitzvah has to require a certain amount of sacrifice, not in a total sense, hopefully, but in a relative sense. We need it. The fact of the matter that mitzvahs cost money, the fact of the matter that Jewish education is more expensive, the fact of the matter that very often living near a shul is more expensive, the fact of the matter that kosher food often has a price. That's not meant to make people feel upset. If you can keep it, if you can get rid of all those extra charges, that's fine. But the fact of the matter is, a goy doesn't need to buy an esser on Sukkot. However cheap you can get an esser, mitzvahs cost money. It's an extra expense. A non-Jew can eat a chicken that we once had here. Somebody wanted to do a business to export chicken pate, chicken livers, made into pate to France. It was a non-Jewish person. He says, well, look, the chicken prices here is lower than France. I said, yeah, but you have to slaughter the chicken. He said, yeah, no problem. The halal, sure. I said, no, we have to do it. He says, yeah, but I said, no, you don't understand. The slaughter of chickens by halal is pretty much done just by regular workers. You have an extra couple of workers that they cut the chicken. Instead of being somebody who's not Muslim, somebody who's Muslim. A shochet in Jewish law has to be somebody who's held on a very high pedestal of piety, of personal conduct, besides for the skill of making a knife and so on. In Jewish life, a shochet is a highly skilled position, not a menial labor that just working in a chicken factory. So by the time you take that into calculation, it doesn't pay to send kosher liver pate to France. Doesn't make sense. So there are things that in Judaism do have a premium. That's the reality. But we have to understand that when we the effort. I'm just talking about money. What about effort? To live a lifestyle commensurate with Hashem, we have to give up on certain things. We have to work harder at certain things. It's an effort. You want to talk about keeping healthy. So say, well, I know a lot of big leaders in the industries, they do exercise every day for an hour. Well, just want to remember one thing. a Jew really has an hour of shul in the morning. Or if he comes to shul, he doesn't, he has to pray, put on tefillin. Besides, on top of the other guy, wakes up in the morning, he can jump on the treadmill, and then he can take a shower and go to work. The Jew is not so simple. He has to pray, takes probably at least half an hour, so on and so forth. We have things that cost us effort, they cost us money, cost us time, cost us energy. Those are the ways we connect to the mitzvah, and it becomes our experience. It becomes a physical, material, human experience. So much so the Zohar says, it's a bit off topic, the Zohar says that when it says in the Torah that the Jews reminiscent about what they ate in Egypt for free, chinam. The Zohar says, chinam, something is free, it's not holy. We have common aphorisms that go like this, what is this common saying? It's, easy come, easy go, or you get what you pay for, so on and so forth. So, now let's go back to Avraham Avinu.
So people are excited on the way before they got to the target. So, that's why the period that before you reached something, achieved something, is more excited than actually the day you already achieved. Because when you achieved it, you calm and it's okay, I got it. But the most maybe emotional part,
the most emotional connection is actually on the way to it,
yes,
working towards it. Good. Let's relate this back to Avraham Avinu. With Avraham, he was asked by God to circumcise himself. Why did it have to hurt? It had to hurt because if it wouldn't have hurt, it wouldn't have been his experience. It would have been a miraculous experience. It would have been God's will would have been done, but it wouldn't have created that connection with Abraham's physical being. It wouldn't have been a physical experience.
Less significance,
less earned, less attachment, less part of Abraham's experience. It had to be his experience. The mitzvah is a connection to Hashem. A mitzvah is to create a connection which allows for the physical being to be part of that experience. A physical experience, if you cut flesh, there's pain. And Hashem didn't want to take that away because Avraham didn't want to take it away until he went through the whole full experience. After 3 days, that he already had the experience. After 3 days, it starts going down. Hashem came and took it away. But he had the full experience. We're going to see an interesting concept here which plays out in the Beis HaMikdash. There's a discussion, an argument about the building of the third Beis HaMikdash. Look at text 15a. It says, we read every day in the song of going out of the sea, the splitting of the sea, it says, you shall bring them and plant them on the mountain of your heritage, directed towards your habitation, your house, God, which you made, O Hashem. The sanctuary, O Hashem, which your hands founded. In other words, Hashem makes the third temple. Look at text in 15b. The Beis HaMikdash is beloved since whereas the world was created with one hand, as it is stated in the verse, even my hand, only one hand, laid the foundation of the earth, the sanctuary, the Beis HaMikdash, will be built with two hands. So who builds it? From this verse, it seems Hashem builds the Beis HaMikdash. Yet, Rambam paskins, text 16a, that when we talk about the coming of Mashiach, this is the way it will be. If a king will arise from the house of David, who diligently contemplates the Torah and observes its mitzvot as prescribed by the written law and the oral law, as David his ancestor, will compel all of Israel to walk in the way of Torah, rectify the breaches in its observance, fight the wars of God, we may with assurance consider him to be Mashiach. If he's doing all these good things, he's a candidate to be Mashiach. If he succeeds in the above, and then builds the temple in its place, and gathers the dispersed of Israel, he's definitely the Mashiach. So who's going to build the Mashiach? Who's going to build the Beis HaMikdash? Rambam seems to say Mashiach, human. So how do we reconcile that? So take a look at text 17a. We're going to give a compromise. The compromise that the Rebbe presents is as follows. The Medrash states, 17a, the Medrash states that the gates of the temple are buried in their place. When the third temple descends from heaven, the gates will rise and be revealed. We will then set them in their place. Text 17b, the Rebbe asks, it's very perplexing. Why is it necessary to use the gates that were buried underground? Just as the temple will descend from heaven, can't the gates too descend from heaven? You think Hashem doesn't have enough bronze or copper to make new gates? If he makes the whole temple by himself, why does he make the gates? And in text 17c, the Rebbe presents the following. Because Hashem is the ultimate goodness, and the nature of goodness is to be kind. He, Hashem, most certainly wants to fulfill the desire of man. What does man really crave deep down? Man by nature prefers one measure of his own work than 9 measures of somebody else's. Therefore Hashem wants the third Beis HaMikdash, which will descend from heaven, to also include our input. 1 measure of our own work. In other words, of course he could bring the whole temple down, but he wants the Beis HaMikdash to also be in a way that it's most beneficial for us. Most beneficial for us is when we also invest. You know, when the human nature, if you would advertise giving out clothes for free, I don't think many people will come. But if you advertise there's a 50% madness, 50% sale, clearance sale, everything 70% off, the place will be packed. Why won't they come if it's for free? It feels like a handout. It feels like charity. It doesn't feel. But you don't have to take full price though. If you let people see that it's their investment as well, they'll come. So here, in a sense, maybe in some vague sense, Hashem says that the Beis HaMikdash will be created by Hashem. Yet the Jewish people from below will create the gates. Will present the gates will rise. The buried gates will rise, and they will. The gates will be placed into position by us. So there's our input. Even though the whole Beis HaMikdash is our input, but it's enough that there is our input. And that's enough for us to feel connected to it, for us to feel that it's done in a way that is really taking into account our own internal need, godly given internal need, to also participate and invest in whatever is being done in order to really feel part of it. And this will be a very important answer and perspective. Sometimes we have the question, why, if Hashem wants us to do His mitzvahs, why does He make it difficult? And some will mistakenly say, obviously He doesn't want me to do it. If it's difficult, He obviously doesn't want me to do it. But that's not the case. It's like a good parent knows that in order to raise the child properly, in order to make them, you have to, and this is a dilemma I think rich parents have. What's the dilemma rich parents have? A rich parent has the dilemma to create a balance, because giving everything to the child without making them earn it creates a feeling of a really shameful feeling and a deeply unworthy feeling by the child. Everything, he hasn't earned anything. And many, unfortunately, will go and look for other thrills, for other ways to stand out, for other ways to make a difference. And sometimes they are very negative behavior patterns. On the other hand, a rich parent who doesn't give his child will often be at the danger of creating a feeling within the child, oh, the parent doesn't love me, the parent doesn't care for me, is stingy with me. Really, the aim of a parent is to try and somehow blend the two, but really get the child to earn, to invest, to somehow make it his own, not just to be the recipient of a handout. And this is part of our very nature. And Hashem, by making mitzvahs not so easy, it's not like you put on tefillin in the morning and all of a sudden every call you make to every client goes unbelievable and you sell like you've never sold before. And the other guy who doesn't put on tefillin has a rough day. It doesn't work like that. Sometimes, very often, we have challenges. But the key is not to see challenges and obstacles as indications that Hashem doesn't want us to do it, but no, on the contrary, Hashem wants us to dig deeper into ourselves, to work harder, to create that effort within us to make sure that the mitzvah we're doing is our experience, not just something that's been handed down. And that's why, just like when we talk about exercising, you only really know you're exercising properly when there's effort. If your heartbeat hasn't gone up, if you haven't put effort, you haven't started sweating, you haven't really done exercise. And as I've told you before, probably one of the biggest enemies of somebody who's recovering from a stroke, God forbid, or some injury like that, is the physiotherapist. The biggest enemy of the patient. I'm joking, and not the enemy. They're the ones that have to help them regain bodily functions. But you know how hard they work them? Till the point of pain. They will always push them to the point of pain. Then they'll stop. Because if they haven't reached the point of pain, it means they haven't pushed them to the point of making progress. And this is really what we have to know about ourselves too. God forbid not pain, but if we haven't pushed ourselves to the point of exertion, the fact that we don't feel like doing a mitzvah doesn't mean, don't make that mistake of thinking, oh, it means we shouldn't do it. No. If we know it's the right thing, it means that Hashem is giving us an opportunity to work harder to make it our experience, something we earn with grit, with sweat, with effort. As the Chassid once came to the third Rebbe of Lubavitch, Tzemach Tzedek, he said, Rebbe, what should I do? I really don't want to study Torah. The Rebbe said, you're so lucky. What should I do that I really, really want to study Torah? In other words, if you don't want to study and you're studying, wow, that's an achievement for you. That means you're really involved in that experience, you're making it yours. If you want to study and you study, it's important. It's great. You don't have that experience of really investing. So what you can always do, even if you want to study a little more than you want to. Exert yourself a little bit more than you want to. In other words, we shouldn't think, oh, I should try and create a miserliness in myself that I don't want to share with others, so then when I share, it'll be my achievement, it'll be an effort. No. If you happen to have a good nature that you like sharing, you like giving, that's good. But give even when you don't want to. Or give even a little bit more than you want to. Everybody has, even when you have a good nature, everybody has their limits. When you find a situation where really, intellectually you know that the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, says you should give, but I don't feel like it, oh, that's a special time. That's where you can use the effort and create a special connection. So what you don't want to do is not always a sign you shouldn't do it. It may be the very sign that this is something you really should do with even more effort. At any rate, with this we will wrap up, just with the basic concept that visiting the sick is very important. If you know somebody's sick, at least to call him. Certainly if you can visit him, if you know that they are not going to be upset by it. Why did Hashem wait till the third day? Because why did Avraham Avinu have to have pain? Because that's the nature of mitzvah. Mitzvah Hashem does, He wants us to connect the physical with God. And when we have a physical mitzvah, there are physical limitations. And that's one of the reasons we don't give children anesthesia, even though at 8 days it wouldn't be healthy. But we don't want to take away that experience. It's a very earthly experience. And the bris is done. When it comes to adults, it would be excruciating and impossible. So therefore there's also only a local anesthesia. We do not give a full anesthesia because the person should be present when they're having the bris. And on that note, on the note of joy and happiness, I wish you all a good week. Those that are here with us, those that are watching from abroad. And thank you.